Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. We're going to be having two lectures on global English. So the first one we're going to kind of look at English as a whole, and then in the second one that you're going to get for next week, we're going to look at specific countries. We'll be looking at how countries around the world, typically former British colonies, use and relate to English. I'll be noting differences of dialect and accent, so if you need to, pause the video and use the course glossary. So throughout the semester, we've talked about the development of English, but a strong undertone has been migration and cultural contact, and that's where these two lectures come from. Let's begin. English changes and adapts based on its usage and its contact with other cultural groups. English really started to spread around the globe and realize its flexibility in the 16th century when England itself developed as a naval superpower. And then the following nearly 4 centuries as England established colonies around the world. Since World War II, however, English's power as a prestige language has been largely due to American influence. So with American pop culture like films and music and television, clothes and food, diverse countries experience English in a variety of ways. English has become almost a lingua franca, mediating between mutually unintelligible languages. In fact, there are more non-native than native English speakers worldwide. In a number of countries around the world, English is a native language or an official language, but in other places it is learned as a second language. In this slide, ESL Linguistic Features, I use Englishes in the plural, and this is because the varieties of English exist in a diverse spectrum. Among these Englishes, we can isolate some linguistic features that speakers may share. First, ESL speakers have a hard time with definite articles, personal pronouns, and existential there/it constructions. For example, there's water if you're thirsty. And this is something I want you to think about. Can you actually remember learning in school the appropriate use of a versus the? I can't. A lot of people can't. And that's because, and a lot of scholars agree, it's something that we think we internalize because of our constant immersion in the language. And most ESL speakers aren't exposed to that as we are. It's also common to see an absence of to be verbs and past tense verbs. And each second language speaker imbues their use of English with familiarity by incorporating loan words from their native language. So in other words, the English we encounter in South Africa is not the same English we encounter in China. And this leads us to what we know as national varieties. So, what is a national variety? A national variety is the accepted standard of spoken English in a particular country which may exhibit elements or the entirety of standard English. For example, the New England variety of English maintains more elements of standard English than several of the other national varieties. National varieties appear in countries that were once a part of the English Empire, and this is not to say that national varieties in English as a second language are the same, because they're not. National varieties are standardized and they have their own conventions, whereas ESL is flexible because it maintains elements of the user's native speech. National varieties sound different from each other, and they usually include different vocabulary and idioms. As a reminder, we call phonological or sound differences in the national variety an accent. Grammatical differences between national varieties tend to be limited, and standard written forms are so similar that it can be hard to determine where a text was published just based on its word choice. So now what I want to do is look at the causes of national variety. Many of these causes we discussed in connection to American accents. So the same is kind of true here. National varieties usually emerge because the colonies were separated from the mother tongue in both space and time. The national varieties preserve features brought over at the time of settlement, but it doesn't include later developments in the native language. National varieties can themselves contain dialects. For example, American English is a national variety, and we know that there are at least 3 main dialects in that variety. A national variety will change from its mother tongue because of contact with immigrant groups from other cultures and contact with indigenous languages. And finally, if the colonizers encounter new landforms or food or animals that they've never seen before, obviously, they will have to adopt the local language for it because it requires new vocabulary. Okay, so the last thing I want to look at in this lecture is what does it mean to learn or speak English in other countries? In countries where there isn't a national variety of English, there's still usually at least some interest in learning English. Its overwhelming spread across the globe has necessitated this. And what do I mean by that? Well, English is now the official or semi-official language in more than 60 countries. English is the official language of air travel worldwide, and modern online communication turned English into a prestige language. A lot of scholarly journals are published in English, and the international tourism industry relies on English. First, because a lot of tourists are English speakers, and second, because again, English serves as a lingua franca between speakers of mutually unintelligible languages. So people take a lot of different tactics, that's the nice word, to learn English. For example, the People's University of China hosts English corners once a week where thousands of students get together to practice speaking English. They also offer informal courses called Crazy English, where students imitated their professor's spoken English through shouting, and they claim that to shout loud, you learn. Television programs have also been used to teach English in other countries, and that's not really unusual when you think about it. It's not that different from the Rosetta Stone, which a lot of people use today. In fact, large Indian cities tend to have a lot of career English centers that promise to help train a person's accent so they can land a better job. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. I want you to be prepared for the next Global English video where we're going to look at specific countries and how they use and relate to English. Okay? Email me if you have any questions. Have a great day.